That's how you do your audio check.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Sure. Except I hadn't started recording in OBS yet.
Oh my god.
It's so dark in here.
Because you have the blinds closed?
It's very dark in there.
Can't be any worse than that first night with Burger.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah. Like a
That's
vampire
better.
over here.
That was like
Anyway,
that's a
welcome
simp
back to
lord.
Casual Outlaws. Today we're discussing parts 1, 2, and 3 of Book 1 of Stormlight Archive, The Way of Kings.
Wait,
Burger,
book
this
1,
was
2, and 3?
Parts 1, 2, and 3 of Book 1.
Yeah, I thought it was just we're talking about the first two parts. I started reading book part 3.
Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I swear to God. That's why I was just like, cool, I got my parts done.
Guess what? I'm all caught up.
Jesus Christ, man.
Hold on, let me just pull an Andy and put this shit on like 7,000 speed.
Actually,
Oh, well, how do you want to do this? You just want to talk about our initial impressions?
I guess. Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the audiobook and how much we hated it.
Not we, just you and I so far.
Yeah, we don't know.
How about you, Nate? Let's
you-
get Nate's impressions, and then
Yeah.
we can talk about our impressions.
Listen, guys, okay? I like Kaladin. I like his story.
That's it.
That
The
shit
rest-
is hilarious.
It was almost overly descriptive and overly Game of Thronesy for me. Kind of bouncing around between what was the other?
Different
Hold on,
characters?
I have the list of the names because I could not remember these guys' names.
How do you
besides
not
Kaladin.
remember Numuhuku Makiaki Ayalunamore?
It was essentially The Rock.
Yes.
I really actually, when they like the way he talked and like
Yeah,
all
The
this
Rock
stuff,
was
I was
cool.
like, oh, this guy's The Rock. They put The Rock in this book.
Who's
I'm
this guy?
kind of cool with that. They put The Rock in this book.
What was it? Dalavan?
Dalinar.
Dalinar?
Dalinar. That's what it is.
Gallivant?
Oh, man.
So there were things about this
Burger's
book that I liked.
barely containing his rage over there.
There were things about this book that I liked. There are things about this book that I loved. And then there were parts of this book that made me think, just keep going. It gets better. And I hope that I don't have to wait to the second book for it to get better.
When you get to part 3, it does get better.
So you think it gets better in part 3?
Yeah, 'cause just things
I think the book constantly ramps up.
Yeah. It's always like it's just such a slow drip. Okay. The audiobook's garbage. The
Yes.
narrator's garbage. Both of
Yes.
them. I remember why I hate listening to Codex Alera.
Pick up
It's
the
'cause of
book
that female
instead.
narrator. And why I didn't like Mistborn series that much is because of the narrator. Instantly when I heard it, I was like, fuck this narrator. I remember this guy now. I don't like him at all.
He's so slow.
Like, I'm gonna have to do the Mistborn series now. I'm gonna have to read it
Yeah.
because I'm like,
That's what I gave up after 3 chapters and I just went and got the paperback.
yeah, I don't like him at all. I don't know how he has a career.
Also, Nate, I also managed to get the Blade itself so I can give that a chance as
You know
well
what?
instead of going through the audiobook.
Oh, seems like he must have gotten it himself, I guess.
No, I got another one.
Oh,
Because yeah.
A Little Hatred?
by
that's the
Joanne
new book. I
Conley.
want to read that, but I want
Yeah,
to get through
dude.
the rest of the series.
Yeah, it's good so far.
Is that part of the First Law trilogy?
No,
Something else?
The new series.
I think it has Sand and Glockta in it, so I think it's a continuation of the
So
original
it's in the
trilogy.
same. Okay.
Mm.
I don't know. It says The Age of Madness, book 1.
Yeah, it's
Maybe that's
it's
the
not part
series.
of the original trilogy. It's the new book. That's the reason why I wanted to read the original First Law trilogy over again, so that way I could do the new book.
Hmm. But
Um,
I think the narrator was the problem for
Yeah.
me as well. Just because, dude, I would find myself in this like lull period, just like, come on, man, stop explaining all this shit on the shelves
The shells everywhere. The
Like art.
shells.
You like drawing shit. I get it. You don't have
Yeah.
to tell me how much you enjoy it. Let's
The
move on.
lacquer was laid across the table and stuff, but it was like such monotone. Like the lacquer was laid across the table.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yep.
I absolutely love the guy. I think he's great. I think it's very serious and stern, but I think it's due to. I think it fits the Alethi people, honestly.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit an audiobook like as a whole.
It does. It does fit an audiobook. The seriousness matches the tone of everything else.
Oh no,
I think
it's
there
just
was
so
bad.
dry.
one part.
The voice is so boring.
The
And,
one
you,
part
and
that
the
made
thing
me
is,
know-
and both narrators are boring and slow and
Oh,
dry.
dude, the
God.
chick was
You're
worse.
wrong.
Oh,
The chick
so
was
bad.
worse.
You guys are just wrong.
Oh,
I think the physical copy of the
The
book.
well, no,
would be
honestly, once I picked up the book and started reading it, I could not stop. I finished it in 3 days,
Yeah, I remember you saying you're done. I was like, this one.
and I'm halfway through the second book now.
yeah.
So
And you
no,
got me the ebook, so I'm gonna watch it I'm gonna read it on my tablet or on my phone.
yeah.
I'm gonna finish
Ebook.
whatever's left on as a book instead of the audiobook because it's killing me right now. Killing me
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Dude, favorite part though, where I got so frustrated at the narrator because it felt like such an awesome part, is when they come across that chasm feed during like the King's Little Hunt tournament.
Yeah.
Not even a tournament. I was
And
like,
Dalinar
dude,
just shows up
you-
and he's like,
you-
"Fuck yeah!"
like finally in a book, I see like this huge Cthulhu type beast, which is just awesome to begin with. And like this whole like 10 heartbeats thing, and I'm just like, my God, this narrator sucks right now.
It's 10 heartbeats.
Yeah. 10.
Fucking
So the
I
shard
don't remember
blades, the shard blades, you can summon them, but it requires 10 heartbeats to pass. So depending
Yeah.
on how excited you are in a situation or how much your heart's pumping, it can be really fast, or it can be a very long time before you get your
Dude,
sword
the
out.
whole way that whole scene was like just written and portrayed like in this book was so freaking cool. You know, like I love it. Dude, when he's just like stops the claw,
Yeah.
I'm just like, bro, he stopped it. Like it was so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I just love it. But the narrator, I was just like, come on, man.
Let's
Get
get
the
into
oomph
it.
in your voice.
I absolutely love everything because this whole thing, it is a bit of an information dump, this sort of beginning part of the book, and I wonder if that could be wearing on you. But like all of the little bits of the world building, like from talking about how like terrain sort of sets up, the high storms, the way that sort of life is sort of shaped around the high storms, the shard bears, the whole like system of shards, and like
And fighting
seeing
over
how-
these plateaus.
yeah.
Like
it's-
I loved it.
all of these little bits just keep adding on, and it's like even the parts that are like little flashbacks, like the death chance for each individual person, or talking about individual stories, to Dalinar's visions in the before times. Like
They haven't finished the book. They don't know anything about the death chance and stuff.
No, that's what I was gonna
they
ask.
know that
right?
the death chance happened. It's
Yeah, but they don't
taking
know,
30
like,
seconds before
But
death.
they don't know like what the guy's what's happening with
I'm not
them.
talking about that.
Yeah,
I'm
just
talking about
saying.
that.
It's just like there's so much more.
Right, but there's like pieces of information in here, and even though they aren't like directly connected to anything, like you see all the like you're able to like start stacking everything on top of each other, and you're building the picture. And I just like every single thing about it. Like I like how serious the voice actors are. I think it suits Dalinar very fine. I think
Not
it
even
matches.
serious. It's just dull.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it's
just not good.
Yeah,
Wow.
but
So
Dalinar,
monotone.
but Dalinar is dull. He
Okay,
is-
but
but
that's
that's
one
one
character.
character.
There's so many others. Dalinar's not even the main character. It's Kaladin.
Wow, I don't think I've ever heard Burger laugh this intensely.
It's like a
Wait
maniacal
a minute,
laugh.
wait a minute.
Like,
Are you having a fucking stroke?
no,
Do you
saying
smell
that
burnt
Kaladin is
toast?
just saying that Kaladin is the main character. It was really funny.
Well, he's the one that we're pretty much all rooting for.
In my mind, he's the main character. but I have a feeling.
I definitely get like Ned
Like, I
Stark
don't know
vibes
who it
off
is.
of. I get Ned Stark vibes off of Dalinar.
Dalinar?
Like, yeah, he's all
Yeah,
about
me too.
honor, and he's like doing everything proper. And he's like, yeah, this guy's gonna get fucking ganked.
Yeah, like I liked Kaladin's side of the story more because you got to see the forefront of like how everything's operating in the war and like his whole internal struggle and all
The
that.
wretch.
Dude, I couldn't stand most of the parts when it went to Dalinar because it just felt like, oh well, why don't they start doing it this way? Let's go do this and then blah blah blah, political this and that. And I was just like, I got so bored with it. And I was just like, come on, man, we get it. You're the king. Go kill something already.
He's not the king. He's a high prince.
No, the high prince. But
How is the king's name actually pronounced? Since I didn't hear it in the book.
Adolin? No,
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 that's
no.
his. That's his son.
That's the son.
Elkohar
Yeah,
or something
how
like
do
that. Elkohar. How's his
Fuck,
fucking
now you
name?
Doesn't matter. I literally texted Andy like these fucking fantasy books and their fucking names.
He was not happy about that at all.
dude, when I first started the book too, because of the narrator, I kept forgetting Kaladin and Dalinar's name. For some reason, I was just like, wait a minute, who is Kaladin again?
I had to restart it. I did like
dude.
4 hours in and I started it over because I like had no idea what was going on. And I still don't know what's going on for some of it.
Well, I think right now, like from what I read, it's still very, very vague. Like we kind of have the principle of
That's kind of
this
what we
guy's
said. Go to part 3.
Yeah.
Not stop.
it's
at
kind of
part
like
2.
I feel like it's kind of like here's Dalinar up here on like the high totem pole end of things, and then here's Kaladin on the low totem pole end of things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's an
the way
absolutely
he's
excellent
hitting these-
dynamic.
Yeah, it's the way he's like
I
delivering the
like
viewpoint of the world from 2 different perspectives.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the same war camp, and then it also, like, by focusing on Shalom, we see like a completely different aspect of the society, like
Mhm.
this, the women's side of society,
Yeah.
where we're just focusing on like war
And the
people,
Jacques Kaved.
Yaakaved, and the king of Yaakaved,
Elhokar.
Elhokar. That's right.
Well, how's
Alokar.
it said in the book?
Alokar.
Okay, because there's an H between the L and the O.
I don't know.
That's why I was like, is it Elhokar? No, the fucking names are weird, man.
Yeah.
Once again,
But see, I like how they're like. It's important to have these differences because having the stuff in Yaakaved where you can set up like the whole idea of the Ardentia, like sort of like what happened with Vorinism in the past, and like how you like if you just saw
No,
with
you're talking about Carbranth then, not Yaakaved.
or Kabranth. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yaakoved's where
Is where
Shallan
Shallan comes from.
Yeah. But it's just like it's this very interesting dynamic of like when you're building like an actual society, like there's so many little things that like I see how all these pieces actually work and fit together. It doesn't feel fake, like where superstitions come from and how those superstitions have sort of transferred through generations, as well as like seeing world like being able to apply real world sort of counterparts and being like, okay, I see where this logic's coming from. It makes sense how they got here. I like just the simple things like having light eyes being like this special class of people to like women having a safe
Super
hand.
racist in this book with the whole light eyes, dark skins, light hairs, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how you determine the pecking order. All right, bro.
Yeah, it's not as racist per se, but it is very classist, I guess.
Yeah.
They do tend to have like a preference for like Alethi purebloods, I think, in terms of their own society, but I don't ever see them like treating different societies different, like light eyes from different societies would be treated the same between each other. So it isn't like that direct sort of racism. But it still kind of exists from this like upper to lower class thing. just nice how all these parts mesh, and it just keeps it building on itself throughout the whole series.
It does a great job
No, yeah,
with the
it's
world building.
the
It's
world
really good.
building's great. The story's great. I'm loving everything. It's just the audiobook is a no-go for me.
I mean, it's a slow build. Like the first part was really hard for me because it's just just so much.
It's a
Really
lot of
story.
exposition. It's a
Yeah.
lot of information. I did say that leading into it. Like the first
Yeah.
3 quarters, the first part 3s of this book are like just like trying to feed information and sort of setting the stakes for
Yeah.
the ending part of this book.
It's just tough. It's just a tough sell for like. I mean, if you're a big time reader, then that's not a big deal because you kind of expect like a lot of stuff like that.
A lot of fluff.
It's not fluff because it's important.
It's not fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's
important.
extremely important, but it's like to get through the dry details of like setting everything up, like putting the foundation down.
Yeah, it can be a lot, and
Can be a
I
drag,
said
yeah.
it's going to be a lot.
Like part 3 is like for me is like all right, now things are starting to like
Things are picking up. They're
things are
enlivening
starting
up.
to, like the ball's starting to roll a lot faster, and you're like, okay, now we're seeing how now with everything set up, now we're seeing how these are starting to like kind of move together.
And you haven't even finished part 3, so you're not even to that part where like it really starts to get good.
And I haven't finished part 3, and honestly, there's there's definitely moments I'm like, I don't remember what happened because they would jump to the characters like, wait, what would just happen with them? I fucking forgot, or like I had a hard time paying attention.
Just read the book.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna move to reading the book because this audiobook is murdering me because I'm like, what happened again? What was that? And I'm trying to like piece things together with the context and like the clues of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I think these kind of fantasy books are just these books that have like deep world building and stuff. I don't think I could do an audiobook anymore. I'm gonna have to start reading them. I think it's just like the Blade itself was like that. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's some really cool stuff that happened. I don't remember it because like it's not my mode of transmitting that information for me.
And the fact that the other thing is I forget if I was telling you, Chris, if I was telling you, Burgers, the fact that like now because of COVID and we're just all here, we're not really doing any commutes, which is where we would normally have listened before.
And I could focus.
It's like exactly because like driving is a pretty just secondary task. Like you're not that much into it unless you're really a super defensive driver. But like just sitting somewhere and just listening to the book, it's almost impossible. Your body gets restless. It needs to do something.
Yeah.
The only time I've been able to do that so far is Peace Talks and Red Rising, where I just sat and listened, did nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, because especially the first part of this book is not necessarily entertaining in like a visceral way. It's just like knowledge gathering.
It's just an information dump.
Yeah, it's exposition.
Yeah, so like
and it's exposition. It's trying to both like give you the exposition, like the setup for the story and the setup for the entire like world. It doesn't have a lot of that shorthand that like you would have for a story that's set on Earth, for example. And that's what I'm really into, these very long fantasy novels. I really like the whole world building dump.
Don't say.
Yeah, no, I do. It's a big thing for me.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah.
Would have no clue.
I just noticed your background is a picture of Bridge 4.
Yeah. Wait, we're like 20 minutes into the episode. We actually haven't done the whole little outline of what happens.
Well, that's part of the issue, is because 2 chuckle fucks haven't done the reading that they're supposed to.
Well, we gotta catch them up anyway. So, Burger, go ahead and let's go through it. What happens in part 1, 2, and 3?
I'm 5 chapters left in what I'm supposed to. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So our story starts off with the prologue of I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The Oath Pact has been being broken.
Yeah, you figure that out by the end of the book. What happened there?
Yeah, the Oath Pact. Yeah, it's basically there are these beings called the Heralds.
You son of a bitch.
And the Night Radiance.
Well, specifically, yeah. Okay, so there's the Radiance, and then there's
Hey, what's that again?
Oh no, the Heralds. Oh my god.
Which ones are the
Quit
good guys?
What are the Radiants?
They're all good guys.
They're all good guys.
Are they good?
well,
Usually
not
they're
really
not-
the
two.
Heralds.
So they're
But-
good, but they're kind of not good depending on what perspective you're looking at it.
But they're immoral.
Yeah. The Heralds
Heralds are.
are, yeah. The Heralds will come back from death. But the Knights Radiants are just people who have formed a bond. But that's kind of spoilers for the future.
Yeah.
So they're in
Basically-
relationships with each other.
Bond with.
They bond with their swords, their shard blades, and their shard plate.
Oh yeah.
It's not.
What's that?
Shut the fuck up for 1 minute. I will get there.
Is it like a magical cup they wear on their coccyx?
Yeah, it literally is that. I can't believe you
magical
read
cock ring.
ahead, Nate. I can't believe you got there. How did you know?
If you want to be part of
Um,
the scuba squad, you have to be smart.
Yeah, basically the beginning of the book is setting up sort of this idea that humans have won the war versus the Voidbringers. And
those?
Cthulhu
Those-
monsters, shut up.
we don't know. It hasn't told us who the Voidbringers are yet.
I mean,
They
don't
do.
Ruin it with
Spoilers.
spoilers, Andy.
Spoilers.
Told you guys
at this
to
point in the
finish.
book, and Andy doesn't even know fully who the Voidbringers are yet, despite
well,
what he thinks.
Maybe, maybe not, but yeah, it's getting there.
It's a conversation for another time, sir.
For another
Yeah, it's a
book.
conversation for book 2. Anyway, so the actual part of the story opens up on a peace treaty being signed between the Parshendi and the king of I want to say
Alethkar.
Alethkar. Thank you. I was going to say the Valerian people, but that's not what I'm looking for. They're having a big feast. There was one of these things called a high storm, which is basically a hurricane that affects the entire world, and it just kind of goes over the entire world, except for all the way on one side of the world where they get a lot weaker by the time they reach them. And Seth, son Villano, truthless of Shinovar, has been ordered to assassinate the king of Alethkar. He uses a bunch of lashings, in order to change how gravity works for him and for other people. And he uses what's called an honor blade. That honor blade is what gives him the power to do these lashings, as well as it's something that's called a shard blade. The easiest way to explain what a shard blade is that it's basically a lightsaber. If it hits non-living things, it will just cut directly through them like butter. If it hits a living thing, it will, like if I got chopped at the wrist, I would never be able to use my hand ever again.
Basically severs the nerves.
No. But that's a good way to think about it.
It's like Butters' sword.
No, it's not like
Joking.
Butters.
No, because it doesn't actually cut
People,
flesh.
yeah. Humans, yeah.
Unless the flesh is dead.
It
Yeah,
severs
where's
the
evil?
connection
And
to
has to be
life
evil.
in that limb.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best way
So
to think
cuts the
about it.
nerves.
Yeah. Now, shard.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
shard blades have an equivalent of armor called shard plate. This is basically a full plate armor kind of setup that can withstand attacks from the shard blade. But basically, Seth kills the king, and the Parshendi, who were part of his peace talks, take credit for it for some reason. Well, as you would expect, a Spartan society of warriors are pretty pissed about their king being killed, and they decide to wage a war that's been going on for 6 years now at a place called the Shattered Plains against the Parshendi. But basically, the reason why everything's taken so long is that the military-industrial complex has realized that, hey, we can fight these guys, but there's all these
Gem hearts.
chasm fiends running around, which are just full of money. Money in this world is basically just gemstones that are trapped in glass and are that can have a type of energy called Stormlight infused within them. We see Seth use the Stormlight in the assassination of the king to make these bindings, so that way he can lash things upwards, downwards, whatever way he wants. So war has been going on. We get introduced to Kaladin, who is basically sold into slavery. Dalinar, who's the brother of the murdered king. His nephew is now king, and he's basically one of the generals that have taken place in this war camp. And things are just kind of going on. And then on a different part of the world, we're introduced to Shallan, who has her father is dead. And it turns out her father was into some shady shit with people who were able to use something called a soul caster, which can do all kinds of different things, like turning stones into food.
It's basically transmutation.
Yeah, that's fine enough way to think about it. But it uses that stormlight energy to do that. It's an object type called a fabrial, which is basically what I would call like an artificer's kind of thing. It's a magic tool that uses like magic in order to perform some sort of action. There's a whole bunch of different fabrials that we get introduced to, like shard bows, which are basically, imagine like the heaviest bow that you can, and then you make it real easy to pull the bow by using magic in order to like increase your strength for using the bow. Shallan has a plan to take, or she has a broken one of these fabrials, and so her plan is to steal a known good one. It seems like the one that her father had was damaged. He was part of a weird, fucked up plot to become High Prince of the territory that he was in. Yasna, who is a known heretic, has one of these fabrials, and so the plan is to become her ward.
She's also the sister of the king.
She is the sister of the king, daughter of the murdered king. One of these people. And basically, we just kind of watch these people go through their lives. Yes, Shallan starts basically what is the equivalent of an apprenticeship under Yasna to become a scholar. Kaladin joins what is called a bridge crew. The place where they're fighting these wars is called the Shattered Plains. Basically, there's a whole bunch of plateaus.
Refer to the picture behind him.
Yeah.
Bridge 4.
Bridge 4 is what Kaladin gets assigned to. Basically, this is a group of expendable people who are tasked with carrying heavy wooden bridges, so that way you can span the gaps between these different plateaus. The reason why is because these chasm fiends come on top of the plateaus in order to occupate, or just look for general shit to do.
That's where they roam, bro.
I feel like
Yeah.
killing.
It's where the buffalo roam. And so basically there's all kinds of scouts out there. Once they see one of these chasm fiends,
sound the horns.
They sound the horns. And a whole army is gathered because both sides, both the Parshendi and
Alethkar.
Yeah, the Alethi armies want the money. Bring me the money, Lebowski.
But you should note that there's different Alethi armies because the 12 high princes have basically run their own armies and their own war camps. So there's a bunch of political infighting going on as well.
Yeah. And so basically part of the premise is that these high princes, the previous king had waged a whole bunch of wars to bring all of the high princes under his banner, thus making a king. But they're still very separate. Taking power away from the high princes and putting it under the crown has been a struggle that's been going on this whole time. Dalinar, who is leader of one of these armies, has kind of gotten bored of just chasing after money. He realizes that everybody's just kind of being petty bitches and they aren't actually doing their objective. He's just like, we're just sitting here for money.
You should probably have mentioned that the last words of the king when he was murdered were words to his brother.
Yeah.
And
so
that's also one of the reasons why he's grown tired with just simply competition and warring.
Sure. So when Seth killed the previous king, the king had some last words to his assassin. Is like, you must tell my brother to find the specific words, which was a quote from a book called The Way of Kings.
Yeah, you must find the
which-
most important words a man can say.
Yeah, and this was one of the things that I really love about the book. In that when Sadeas and Dalinar, Sadeas is another one of the High Princes, are talking to each other. Sadeas is the only other one who is aware of what the king had said when he died, and they're both like, I'm forgetting how I want to say this. What I really liked about it is that it shows how like everything was thought out through this whole process. The Alethi society has masculine and feminine traits. Some men aren't really taught to read,
Or write.
They have something called glyphs in order for like basic kind of things.
Like, oh, that's a market that sells food, and that one sells clothes.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And the words that were said by the assassinated king were written in his own blood using like the high form of writing, the women's form of writing. And what's great here is because it confuses the shit out of Dalinar and Sadeas. Is like, did you know that your brother could read and write? It's like, that's women's things. And they're just like, and like it kind of blows Dalinar's mind. So he's like reading this book of the Way of Kings, where he's had the book read to him. He's had the book read to him like a true Alethi man. And basically, the Way of Kings is, I would kind of call it like a version of the Prince. It's sort of like how people are supposed to rule. And it talks about, it's basically like a lot about noblesse oblige. Like, you rule for the sake of your people, not for them to serve you per se. And that's sort of heretical for this sort of society that has the light eyes elevated above everybody else.
But specifically the Alethi, they're just like competition based. Everything they do is supposed to be a competition to them.
Yeah, or at least that's where they've come to treat it. But yeah, so Dalinar has been reading this book. He's just like, I think we should just try and get the actual war part over with here, versus sitting around just competing over gem hearts. And that's sort of where the story's going so far. There was a chasm fiend hunt on one of these plateaus with the king around while he was palling around with Dalinar and Sadeas. The king's bridle was cut, which the current king thinks there was an assassination attempt on his life, sort of causing a lot of chaos between the different high princes of, is there somebody actually trying to kill the king? We don't know.
The whole investigation goes into play.
That's what Sadeas is in charge of. Because Dalinar,
was he already named High Prince of Information
in part 3? I believe so. 3? Yeah,
wasn't that? I thought it was
part 2.
4. Yeah. Either way, continue.
Anyway, a lot of the suspicion falls onto Dalinar because
it all happened in his war camp.
Yeah, it all happened. Well, it all happened in his war camp. His grooms were in charge of the king's horse. If there was an assassination attempt, it would be his grooms who would have last handled the king's horse. So a lot of suspicion is falling on Dalinar. We think we're seeing a lot of plays by Sadeas in order to sort of take Dalinar down. Lots of drama for him. Meanwhile, Paladin has all of his friends dying. Well, not friends, the people he lives with, he works with, getting killed in front of him all the time. There's something called a spren, which I would sort of call a fairy of sorts.
Yeah, like every single time that his spren Silk pops up, I just keep thinking of Navi from like Ocarina of Time. Hey,
Listen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Spren sort of exist all throughout this world.
But
Bunch
only
of
like
different
certain
kinds.
people can see him, right?
Well, there's a bunch of different kind of spren too.
No, everybody can see them.
It just depends
not
on the
everybody.
kind of spren.
Yes and no. Certain spren can hide themselves to not be seen, but then there are things like ring spren, fire spren,
Fear
pain
spren.
spren, fear spren, which sort of come up whenever these things are happening around them. And every single spren there's like a type of, and they're aspected to a thing. So like if
There's
somebody's
rot spren
afraid,
for like people who are getting infections and stuff like that.
right? So like for fear spren, if you're afraid, like your peers can see you're afraid because these spren have shown up, which I think is sort of it's a thing that like people don't really notice because that's the way that their world works, but it's interesting that we can see it. It's sort of like this weird interplay between what appears normal for one society to and then what we, the reader, are like, this is super weird. Basically, Kaladin has been followed around by what he believes is a wind spren. This spren is a particularly playful one because wind spren usually fly away on the wind, but they like to play pranks on people while they're around. This one is called Syl. She likes to hang out with our man Kaladin, play pranks on him, as well as trying to provide him some kind of general encouragement into not killing himself.
Almost
But
like
companionship.
they're almost like friends because
She basically keeps him from killing himself.
Yeah.
and
But she's
the Spren
technically
himself
been
is
around.
behaving differently too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
she
she's
starts
like-
to, she
she's been,
starts
like,
to
watching
remember
and stuff
things
like
and
that,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
which is not
Yeah.
normal or typical of a Spren.
Spren do not talk to people. They are
Yeah.
like an elemental force more than I would call them like a normal fairy, which we would sort of assume is like having a personality, especially if you're trying to use like a Dresden Files equivalent of a fairy. It doesn't quite match up that way.
Not at all.
But this one had been following him around
For a
like
while.
Long
Yeah,
time,
that's the weird part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been following him for a few months, which is completely
When she became
is
a slave,
relatively unheard of.
basically.
Before that, because
Um,
she would talk about how he was a warrior. Remember?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he doesn't recall
never knew that,
noticing
yeah.
her until after.
After he became a slave.
No, that's not true because whatever. That's like spoilers for later parts of the book. But we see her pull a prank on him in the war camp, but he just like dang Windspren because he thinks like because Windspren play pranks on people, but they don't stick around and follow one person. That's the oddity here with
Yeah.
Syl. Let alone talk to people as she does. And basically Kaladin's trying to stay alive because the people who carry these bridges are just slaves or the
They're
very
cannon
bottom
fodder.
rung of society. Yeah. And so Sadius sees that the parchment will shoot the people carrying the bridges, and he's like, "Hey, it's cool
hold
if
on,
they
hold
die."
on. Not the Parshman, the Parshendi. The Parshmen are completely different. Or technically they're not, but they are different.
You see this guy over here? He reads one book.
He also doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
You said the Parshmen are going to shoot them. The Parshmen aren't the ones that are fighting. It's the Parshendi.
Yeah, so my confusion of the words is actually an accidental spoiler, rather than
tomato.
Anyway, the Parshendi will shoot the bridgemen because they're like, oh, these are your troops. You wouldn't just waste life, would you? So they're gonna shoot the unarmored people. But Sadius is doing it so that way his more trained troops don't get shot at instead. He doesn't lose any of the people he spent any actual money on. Cannon fodder can go die. I don't care. As long as a few of them are able to plant the bridge so my troops can get across to the other plateau, great. Human life is cheap, according to Sadius, and Kaladin has to try and stay alive in this situation.
Lucky boy.
Also,
He's
one
lucky
thing
boy.
to note is that Kaladin has this tendency of just kind of like picking up people that just have it bad and trying to protect them.
Yeah, that's sort of been his life. He used to be in the army. He's no longer in the army. He was marked as a slave. We don't really know why at this point. Well, Chris should know why, but I don't know if he was paying attention.
Killed the wrong light eyes, man.
Yeah, he killed the wrong light eyes.
OMG spoilers.
That was like the first 2 chapters.
I don't remember. Honestly, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, basically that's the story so far. Everybody's trying to keep their head above water in this war zone situation. Plus Shallan, trying to gain an apprenticeship and steal,
Steal the things.
Yeah, steal the things.
And like art, draw art this, art that.
She's
whatever.
also being flirted with by an Ardent the entire time.
Yeah, an Ardent is basically a priest. Like
they're
a monk.
basically slaves also.
Yeah, they are considered property, but it seems like they have the ability to leave whenever they want.
But I think I remember reading something about like if they leave the Ardentia, they're kind of just like disregarded from society. Because it's like a very low thing for them to do. Like other people can change their like their what their objective in life is, but if you go into Ardentia and you leave, you're kind of just like you're the lowest of the low. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I think that's some book 2 stuff that you're doing there.
Whoops.
But yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I know.
Spoiler city this episode. Oh
I
my
told him to slow down. Like I re-listened to the third part of the book, even though because I finished the whole thing. So that way, like I would have like a good frame of like where I'm stopping. And he just gives 0 fucks about it. He's just like,
I'm pretty sure that was in part 1, 2, or 3. Like when Casball is introduced.
What's that?
Casball?
Is it Casball? I don't know how it's said in the book. In the audiobook.
Spoilers.
Every time you say a name wrong, it just completely gets overwritten in my head. Cabzal.
Is it
Cabzal? His name of the book. Yeah.
Either way, he's like flirting hard with Shallan.
Yeah, as much as like a prudish Victorian society
would allow.
Would allow. Yeah.
Let me pour some. Do you have any lacquer? Give me that lacquer.
I got some bread and jam. Oh, this type. If you like this type of jam, that means that you're persnickety. Yeah, or something. Who? Can I see your safe hand? You just want what? My hand?
Yep. That's the book.
Oh well, actually, it ends basically. Kaladin's coming up with a maneuver where they can carry the bridge on the side and use it basically as a giant shield against these arrows.
OMG, spoilers.
And in doing so, the Parshendi basically direct all their attention to the other bridges and just like decimate the forces.
You told the rest of the forces to get fucked.
Yeah, and the thing is, Kaladin the entire time he's just like, I just want to protect my team. And then like after this happens and they set the bridge, he realizes I've just fucked up the entire military maneuver right now. Because the army's just getting fucked.
What I really like about Kaladin's story, especially as like leading Bridge 4, is like you just see his development as a leader in those situations, like grow and grow, right? Like the choices he makes, the way he talks, like the decisions he makes to like how he talks to his crew and how he operates with people above him, right? And stuff like that. It's just like you just see how like that development, that growth goes as a leader. And so I'm like, oh man, this is definitely going to go somewhere. I'm very excited to see where this leads him after. Like, obviously, he's eventually going to move beyond this bridge crew. That's like what it's building up towards.
You will see.
So I'm
he doesn't really move beyond the bridge crew. He's with those people for a while.
Yeah.
Bridge 4 is forever.
But I suspect there's something bigger and better out there for him.
That's true. So after Kaladin does the maneuver and he puts the bridge on the side to block arrows coming in from killing his comrades, well, he gets the shit kicked out of him because a whole bunch of people who aren't considered shit by the army die. And the High Prince Sadeas is very upset about that. Like what? But he can't be. He can only be so mad because why wouldn't a lowly bridge person want to try and fight for their life? It's
Well,
the dumbass.
the other thing is their society is like the lowest light eyes that's in charge of these low rung people. Like it's their responsibility to make sure they do their job right. And in this
That's
case,
crazy talk.
that didn't happen. So he fucking executes that light eyes guy.
Yeah.
And then he basically sentences Kaladin to death.
But he survived.
Yeah, by stringing him up in a high storm.
Yeah.
Andy is our resident Florida man. He's probably seen 1 or 2 hurricanes.
They're not
Floridians,
fun.
they're not fun. I don't think you'd want to be taped to a roof during the middle of one. That's sort of the equivalent of what Sirius does, although not really, because he like puts him at the end of a chain. So it's more like Kaladin is a flying kite in the middle of a high storm.
Yep.
And these high storms, like, it isn't just rain, high winds, and like some loose debris.
Like
going around.
boulders are getting like blown out.
Yeah, boulders are being thrown around, so it's not a lot of fun. Kaladin is able to, Kaladin's able to stay alive throughout this high storm, just barely. He was given a piece of money. I'm forgetting the word for
gemstone.
Yeah, the gemstone, but what's the actual money called? A sphere. He's given a sphere. And spheres hold the stormlight. And the way that you recharge a sphere, because the stormlight will eventually run out into him, is you place the sphere out in a high storm, and the high storm will recharge the gemstone. Basically, Kaladin is able to take the stormlight into his body, and the stormlight will heal his body.
He also talks to the Stormfather during this storm.
Again, you didn't know what that was until book 2, but thanks, Andy.
Son of a bitch!
I'm pretty sure, like he's talking to a giant face in the storm. You're pretty sure it's
no
the
name.
Stormfather.
There's no name to it.
It doesn't matter. You can basically guess who it is.
For being a garbage person, you piece of trash.
I thought that was fucking Santa Claus.
You thought it was Odin?
Yep.
That's still my favorite spoiler we did to Andy for Dresden.
That Odin is Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Dicks.
Anyway, but yeah, basically, it only will recharge a sphere for so long. Kaladin still gets beat up pretty badly. He's basically going to die. He sees death spread, and you only see those when you're going to die. One of the people in his bridge crew is part of a secret society.
The Rock.
We said
no, that's Rock.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Rock, pretty much.
It's part of a secret society who's aware of the Knight's Radiance, kind of, because it's so long ago that all they have are just kind of like big fairy tales and stories. Yeah, and he sort of suspects some fucky business is going on with Kaladin.
Well, because he's the one who gave him the sphere, and he gets it back after, and he sees that it's dim.
Yeah. There's no stormlight in the sphere at the end of the storm, and that's like, wait, that's not right, because it should have recharged. And so basically, we see that Kaladin is able to take stormlight into his body, and it greatly aids his healing. And for the rest of the series, we're going to see expansions upon these powers, because it's similar to the powers that we've seen Seth, Zun Sun Villano, Truthless of Shinovar use.
I love using his full name.
In the beginning of the book. Listen, it's such a great name. I don't know.
Hate it.
You can say the Rock's full name over and over and over
Numuhuka
again.
Makiaki Ayalunamore?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Terrible.
I like Seth Sons on Villano, Truthless of Shinovar. There's certain things that you just gotta like pick up and love. That's all I'm saying.
Can name the Bob.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? The Hawaiian state fish is a huma huma nuka nuka apua.
Is that your reference to forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yeah. And just a long name. That is my 2 cents.
Yeah. That's very good, Nate. Good job. Congratulations. You're part of the team.
SMERT.
Just talking about a whole part of the book that he was supposed to read but didn't read.
Yeah. Now I'm not excited.
Honestly, part 3 is great. Part 3 is great.
Part three,
Part 3 is good.
Part 3 is great, but it's still kind of sad. But I think parts 4 and 5 really kick it up a notch. We see we've been worried about everybody dying, and we sort of see resolutions to those stories that I think feel very satisfactory and set up really well for book 2.
Very excited to get through it.
You forgot to mention that for Shallan's story, or Shallan, whatever the fuck
Nobody
you want to
cares
call
about
her.
her. Fuck
Well, no,
her.
she manages to steal the Fabrial,
Ugh,
the
don't care.
Soulcaster, and then it turns out that
And then she draws a picture of it.
Well, no. The ardent guy who's been flirting with her, turns out that
He puts lacquer on it.
No, he's been trying to assassinate Yasna the entire time with the food that
true.
he's been bringing
I don't remember that
Shallan.
part.
Well, because you
Is
haven't
that part
gotten to it. That's the end of part 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I was trying to leave it out because he hadn't gotten there yet.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we
that's
said
fair.
we were going to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I give him a pass. He's just being a dick.
Yeah, he's being petty and spiteful,
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
just like Prince Thaddeus.
he tries to basically poison Yasna with all these bread and jam that he keeps bringing, but he's putting the antidote in the jam, and he knows that Shallan loves jam, so he's always trying to get Yasna to eat it. Finally, after Shallan figures out she can actually soul cast, she doesn't want this revealed, so she basically stabs herself in the arm, so it looks like she soul casted a pitcher into blood. And everyone's going to be like, how the fuck did she do this? So she stabs herself in the arm, trying to make it seem like she just cut herself. It ends up looking like a suicide attempt. So they have her in the hospital. And he comes to visit her in the hospital. Yasna's there. And she finally just gets Yasna to eat a fucking piece of bread. Turns out, though, that the jam was the antidote. The guy... but she doesn't like jam because Yasna's a weird bitch. So she actually soul casts it into something else because she thinks that it's poisoned. Turns out that's the antidote, so everyone eats the bread. The guy tries to eat the antidote, doesn't work. He fucking ends up dying, and then Shallan can't eat it either.
Shut your whore mouth.
Shallan can't eat it either.
Shallan gets poisoned, yeah.
And basically,
Yasna,
yeah,
I'm already lost.
Yasna's like, I'm gonna have to soul cast your blood.
Andy just needs to stop talking.
I'm gonna soul cast your blood, and she's like, no, you can't. The soul caster, I stole it. It's not gonna work. So she reveals herself as a thief, and then Yasna's like, yeah, I'm done with you. So she kind of fucked herself.
I really hope. Well, I know Nate didn't retain any of that information.
He went too far off.
Yeah. So yeah.
These are things that have happened. Me dumb?
Not calling you a truther. Anyway, we're gonna finish the book. I hope everybody finds a medium that they're able to enjoy it in and enjoy the book. I think the audiobook is absolutely perfect. Love every part of it.
Garbage tier.
I think that you guys just like YA voice actors.
Why in this life do you love bad things?
I don't love bad things. I love
bad.
good.
It's 3 against 1 right now, Burger. It's
legitimately bad. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 3 against 1. And there's only one person in here who's smart.
Okay.
Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, it could be Chris. You might be close.
It's bad. But I'm gonna read it.
Right.
I'll read it.
There's a different audiobook for the Way of Kings, actually. It's actually fully casted, and it has like music and sound effects and all that stuff. It's slightly abridged though, because like certain lines that say like, oh, and then you heard a slam of a door. Instead of that, they just put the sound effect of a door slamming. So it's slightly abridged, but I hear good things. It's about the same.
On Audible, right?
It's not on Audible. It's from these people called Graphic Audio, and they have a very small library of just audiobooks that they've done. They've done all of Stormlight though. So if you are opposed to reading it,
I like the book. I just wish
the narrator was good.
Yeah, narrator kills some of these parts for me.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Burger's there biting his tongue
when he fucking stopped the claw. Like,
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it was
absolutely
Oh,
great.
great.
hung up on that. Hung
Dude,
up on the
because it
claw
was-
business.
It
Dude,
was
I'm
one
just-
of the best action sequences in the book.
I was so excited because that's when like it kind of explained that like these beasts are like very Cthulhu type monsters, you know. And I was
Like
barely
the
remember that
whole
scene.
the whole
Yeah,
idea
dude.
behind these hunts is that they have a bunch of archers just like picking at it for hours until it's like super weak, and they can just move in and just like butcher it.
Yeah.
But it also shows like the dynamic between Dalinar and Sidious. Basically, like,
Sadius.
yeah, they don't like each other, but at the same time, there was one point where Dalinar's about to die, and Sadius comes in. He just he shoots an arrow, and he directs the attention away from Dalinar so Dalinar can recover.
Yeah, they don't really like each other, but they're
They're
like
frenemies.
they're like loyal to an idea,
Yeah,
kind of.
they each have their own way of protecting the king.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's call it.
Yeah. So
Going
you
with
guys are gonna
themes.
actually finish the book for the next episode, please?
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna finish.
It's actually
this.
much shorter from here on out. So
But you
Oh,
got to
not- I
start
mean,
from the
not today.
beginning.
Yeah, part
Okay.
3 is like 3/4 of the book. Like part 3 is like 3/4 of the book.
yeah,
There isn't a whole lot left.
yeah. I think I got 19 hours of the 45 hours. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys hear that? My cat just ran into the glass door.
I was wondering
Thought I
what
saw a
that.
bird.
I saw your shutters moving. I was like, what the fuck was that?
It was the cat
Yeah.
just. Oof.
all right. Anything else to add?
Audiobook's great.
I've been living in a farce. I actually can't read. So
Oh, I mean, that's
audiobooks
obvious. It's not like you have to
Yeah.
tell us about that.
wonderful.
So wait, did you simply just buy Peace Talks, the hardcover, so you can just look at it?
Yeah, I love pictures, man.
Are there actually any pictures besides the dust cover?
There's the cover art.
Dude, there's
Yeah,
the
it's-
picture of the author.
Dang, he's got a point. You
Ooh.
can see Jim Butcher's face.
Yeah, that's something I want to look at.
Yeah, long-haired psychopath. He looks like a weirdo. He looks like Weird Al Yankovic's third replaced cousin.
I think he just looks like an older nerd, but okay.
But sure.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to read the rest of it.
All right.
Cool.
We will end it there then.